Welcome, everybody. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to change the world one brave word at a time. And today we're celebrating one of our newest books. The Ancestors Within Volume 2 is Discover and Connect with Your Ancient Origins. And I have some of our amazing author experts with me here today to share their wisdom and talk to you a little bit about ancestral healing. But first, you guys, let me just say a huge thank you to our lead author, Amy Gillespie Dougherty. She is bringing the world's leading experts in ancestral healing together in this amazing series of books. And when you guys start to read what we're offering here, the life-changing kinds of stories and tools from our authors, I don't know, we hope you're going to get excited like we are. So welcome, authors. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm happy to have you guys. So I have Joy Andreason. Did I get that right, Joy?
You did. You did. Good job. First time.
She is an author, spirit communicator, and healer of the soul who connects with clients via Zoom, phone, and in person in Winchester, Virginia. Marcia Culver is a human who walks between worlds, gathering information, channeling it to the client while singing them into a trance, walking with them through darkness and back to step into their magical full potential. And Jesse Barrientes, I needed to roll my R on that one, Jesse. He is the CEO of Everything Art. He is a singer, songwriter, poet, and author spreading love and healing to the world. So I think, Joy, let's start this party with you. Tell me about the amazing chapter that you wrote.
Yeah, so I haven't been doing the ancestral work as long as a lot of the other authors. I started out just communicating spirit messages from like angels and guides. And along the line, my guides kind of led me into the ancestral healing. So one of the things that I noticed when doing like shamanic and Reiki healing on my clients was that a lot of their issues related to their ancestors. And, you know, they were passed down. And then there were those ancestors who nobody wanted to talk about or, you know, had been disregarded, had been forgotten. And so my chapter is about what do you do about those ancestors, the ones that are missing, the ones that were unhealed. What, you know, how can you find closure? And that's whether you have a bad relationship with them, whether they did something really horrible, or whether they're just missing. And so my chapter is about that. I have a couple of stories of dealing with clients and then a little bit about myself. And then I offer a tool for finding closure with this missing ancestor. And you can do it over and over if you have a lot of missing ancestors, or you can just, if you have one in particular that you have problems with, then, you know, it's a really good exercise to connect with an ancestor and really find closure for yourself. And it offers your self-healing, and you also offer healing to the ancestor who may be on the other side still going through this period of resolution in their time of reflection over their life.
So Joy, let me back you up for just a minute, because you were saying you started working with your clients and you were realizing that some of the issues they were presenting with were ancestral, but like, how do you even know that?
Well, my guides tell me.
Okay, so that's what
pretty much it. They just tell me. They'll say, this started with, I think the first time it ever happened, I was doing a shamanic journey. I was doing a soul retrieval for somebody. And someone, while I was in the journey, somebody's grandmother showed up and said, you know, this didn't belong to her, it belonged to me. And I was like, oh, okay. So really it happened during a time when I was doing a session with a client, and the ancestors actually came through and told me that this was ancestral. And then after I did that, I started doing research and kind of learned more techniques. But basically my technique is to listen to my guides or whoever shows up and get the healing done.
Nice. And so, I ask that question mostly for our listeners because I remember a time where I was like, all these magical people can do all these magical things, but I'm going to need to like hire them to do it for me. But what we want you guys to realize is this book is full of tools you can use from the book.
Yes.
And that's why I asked Joy about like, well, how did you know? Well, she's able to connect, and so can you. And we're going to be teaching you how, in so many different ways, you guys can connect with your ancestors and get those messages and get those next steps and get the love and support and the healing, right? It's a really, really, really powerful idea. And we wanted to bring you these real people who could tell you real stories about what they're doing in terms of this. Thank you, Joy. So, Marcia, tell me about your amazing chapter.
Oh, my chapter. I love I love that I get to connect with the ancestors so often now that I've actually recognized it. It took me a long time to, well, most of my life to realize that the ancestors were talking to me all the time. So that's what my chapter is about, is how they communicate with me and how often they communicate with me, starting when I was 3. And then moving into different things that have happened where I've gotten nudges to connect or to do things. And I can't ignore those anymore. So that is what a lot of it's about, a little bit about my daughter and things that happened with her and the connection with everything. So the chapter is called Mo Anam Kara, and that means my soul friend. So we want our ancestors to be our soul friends as well. So the tool is actually singing and connecting with your ancestors by singing. So I love that. I did have a problem, some issues that I had to work through to get through that chapter because I was terrified to put it out. So I'm happy it's out there, and I'm excited to see what people think about it too. So
thank you to all of you for, saying yes to that kind of thing, for stepping up and sharing your authentic stories and helping people understand they're not alone. And it does take something to do this. I want people to understand, just what kind of warriors I have stepping into these books saying, yeah, I'll share my raw, real, amazing stories with you guys. And I'm going to do that in the name of helping people. You guys are so amazing that way. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. Marcia, you mentioned you had it since you were 3. I hear a story a lot that goes something like, I had it, I lost it, I got it again. Can you tell me a little bit about that for you?
Definitely. Yeah, my parents were really afraid that I was going to have to be institutionalized like my grandmother and great grandfather were, because I knew things and I said things that I shouldn't know. So I had to actually, it wasn't until long after I moved out of the house, and I didn't recognize it really until probably about 12 years ago, and started really listening and allowing that to move through my body. And some of it I'm still recognizing. So it's always a process.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that piece of it. I think it's a common piece throughout the world of healers and people who are out there sort of doing the journey, that we had to reclaim our gifts later. So I appreciate you guys talking about it, because I want our listeners to understand, the possibility really. Right. Jesse, tell me about your amazing story.
Yeah, my story is like about my pretty much my life story and how I used it to utilize it. Like, I wasn't born in like the most happiest situations. I was born in a pretty tough spot and pretty much like forced to survive. But learning things and being able to figure out where I come from and what I'm actually able to do, and the abilities and the gifts that I'll be able to pertain. Like, just learning my culture, like, because I'm not Anishinaabe man, so I'm Ojibwe. So there's things that we had to learn, and there's things that we had to realize, like especially with reincarnation, and coming here, and we are born spirit, we are taught human by our parents, and then we it's upon ourselves to be able to work ourselves back again.
We are taught human by our parents. Sometimes you guys are going to see me looking down while I'm writing your quotes, but that is a good one. So you mentioned having a rough time and moving through that. And my friends talk about these instances in their lives like it was just, oh yeah, I did that. I just moved through that whole time. And we all know how challenging that is. So tell me about how you woke up to then moving through that time.
Well, a lot of it was especially doing the things that I had to do. Like, I would go door to door. I would shovel snow, rake leaves. I used to put up like lemonade stands and stuff. And like them things used to take me away from, the reality that I was living in. Like, and then I used to pray all the time, and I used to wonder why I was praying or who I was praying to. Like, and that was the toughest thing about that, being by myself or so independent. Like, I didn't really realize or have the chance to look around too much because I was too busy, taking care of the things that I needed to take care of. But like with singing, and well, like, because I wasn't until I was about 12 years old when I finally started like actually getting into singing like every day. And then once I realized that, and the stories and the songs and the teachings behind like in the dreams behind every song, because that's how we connected through our ancestors, is through our dreams. That's why they call us the dreamers, like, because we that's how we travel back and forth in this world of the spirit world.
Mhm.
I love thinking about that in terms of dreams. And for our listeners, we're hoping to kind of start you thinking about what else is possible. What else is possible for your healing? I love that question so much. So as you're listening to Jesse and Marcia and Joy today, ask yourself that in terms of what have you maybe not tried yet. They're going to be offering you some pretty amazing tools in this book. Thank you, Jesse. So I have this next question for all of you. I'm going to start with Marcia on this one. It's been so clear to me that ancestral healing and this whole topic has been transformational for all of you. So Marcia, what I want to hear about is one, I know there are many probably, but what's one of the aha moments you had when you dove into this work?
Oh my. Yeah, there are so many. Which one do I pick?
Which one do you think of today when I ask you that? Which one stands out?
I think when I was over in Scotland, and I had I'd been doing the singing work that I do, moving the energy through people for a few years, but I would only do it when people were on the table. I was afraid to do it out anywhere else. And I had a tarot reader on the high street in Edinburgh tell me that I should be a busker, that I should put it out there, and how better to reach the world than right there. And I was terrified. There was no way I could have done it. But then I heard voices from my ancestors saying, we're with you, we've got you. So I was able to do it. I didn't do it by myself, but I did it anyway. So it was very, very cool. And I'm crying, but
I love that. I love that. And I feel it. You guys, it's come up in other interviews so far too, where you all heard, we're with you. You heard that, like just what Marcia's saying in her story. And every single time you guys tell me this piece, it gives me goosebumps. So do you hear that nowadays as well?
I sure do. Yes. I hear it a lot. Or we're with whoever I need them to be with as well,
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, Marcia. Jesse, how about you? Can you think of a moment where you had an aha just doing this kind of work?
When I learned the teachings of the drum itself and why we drum. When we hit the drum itself, okay, the hide that the drum is made of itself is made from the animal. The animal gave his life to be the portal between this world and the other world. Okay, so when we hit that drum, it sends out a echo or a way, like it's like it'd be compared to throwing a rock in a lake, and you see that ripple that comes out. So when we hit the drum, it starts that ripple, and it creates a portal, and then that calls down the spirits of the song that we're singing, and then they ride that way that from our drum, and they ride it out, and it spreads out the healing, and it creates like a helix and brings it all back and like circular, and like just learning that and then learning the songs and which songs to sing and what spirits to call in, like that was pretty eye-opening for me, just feeling that power go through you.
I don't know about you guys, but like I want Jesse to like say that whole thing again slower, because I'm like, when I first read about this, I have to say, honestly, it was like a moment for me. I wasn't putting together the animal spirit with the instrument, and you did that for me. You just did it again by sharing that. Like when you guys realize that that is not just a hide on a piece of whatever it is, like there's so much more to this, and it is so much more magical than maybe you imagined. I don't know, Jesse, what else do you want to say about that?
Oh.
He went away. Got to unmute you again, Jesse.
Oh, okay, yeah, got it.
What else do you want to say about that piece of things, and especially for you moving forward with your music?
Just the feeling that comes with it. Half of it is wanting to do it, but the other half is intention. It's all about intention. Like, so whatever you put into it is whatever you get out of it. Like, so if you go into things wholeheartedly, then the healing that comes from that is unprecedented.
Yeah, for for the music and for everything in life, right? Yeah, amazing. Thank you, Jesse. So Joy, how about you? What was one of the moments where you just had an aha with the ancestral work that you've been doing?
I guess the first time was, I've always had the ability to tune into spirit, but because of my belief system, being raised in a certain belief system, it wasn't really recognized as such. And except through the gift of prophecy, which was allowed. And so when I first, I guess, awakened to the fact that there was more than that belief system for me, and it's fine for other people, which is fine. But for me, it was limiting. And so I needed to expand my awareness and expand. And I was afraid of what my parents and my family would think, because my father had been a minister, and all of my uncles, and my mother was very much into this faith. And so I was afraid to express, because of my ancestors who were living. And then when they passed, I was afraid that they were going to come back and haunt me or tell me I was doing the work of the devil. I mean, I was afraid. And I went to a medium. My husband kind of dragged me there. And this was before I was talking to the dead or doing anything. And I told my husband, I said, they're either going to come and they're going to yell at me and tell me I'm doing something wrong, or they're not going to show up at all because they don't believe in this stuff. And so it was in a circle, and the medium, she started, and my mother was the first one to come through. And I was so shocked. And it let me know that when they cross over, they kind of, and I don't know how long it takes. Maybe they have their beliefs with them for a while. I think that it's maybe a gradual thing, but I was very relieved to find out that my parents on the other side, both of them, were encouraging me to continue in the work and to do what I was doing. And they said, it's okay that you do it differently from the way we did it. It's okay that you have adopted a different belief system. And that for me was very, that was my aha moment, knowing that my ancestors on the other side weren't condemning me because I was doing it differently from them.
I love that. It's kind of bringing me back to when Jesse said we're taught human by our parents, right? So they're teaching us whatever this thing is within the limiting belief system. But then here on the other side, I guess, if you want to say that, everything opens up into just love and forgiveness and gratitude, and everything is okay, Joy, like you can do this, right? I love that message.
Exactly. Yeah, because I was afraid to include them, and I had been asked by Spirit to write the story of my transformation, and when my mother and father were alive, I was like, nope, not going to do this. I am not doing it. And then when they passed, I actually published the story for the first time. I've kind of republished it now, but I published it, after they both passed, because I was not willing to get out there and do those things while they were living. I wanted to honor them. I didn't want to, feel like they were ashamed of me, But then when they went on the other side, they were very open and welcoming, and they were my biggest cheerleaders.
Yeah, nice. That's another thank you I have for all of you is, there were many authors who were first-time writers and published authors in this book, and there were some very seasoned and everywhere in between, right? And we're all at different stages, but something I know for sure is when you write your story, it's a healing moment for you. When you share it out loud, that's a whole nother level of healing and courage and all the things. And it really does depend on who's alive and who might be reading it and all of the things, right? We could talk about that one all day long. I appreciate all of you though for stepping up and sharing. So Jesse, I'm going to start with you for this next question. I'm going to come around to all of you for it. It's been an interesting couple of years, hasn't it? And a lot of our listeners could still be in that place of feeling really stuck in lots of different ways. I mean, from minor to very tragic ways. And I wondered if you could share about how diving into this topic of ancestral healing could help them right now.
With the realization, and with everything going on, like with the pandemic and stuff like that, we are forced to look inside ourselves. And no better way of realizing that you are not alone is figuring out that you are a piece of the puzzle of everything. And that realization just gives you comfort and gives you hope. The realization that you are here for your ancestors and your ancestors are here for you. Even if you're alone, it doesn't matter, you're never alone. That thought, is calming in itself.
I like that. I'm writing that a couple of things down about that. I think the connection piece, especially for this book that you guys are in, this book in the series was very specifically about the connecting part. And so many people were, and still are, alone, literally physically alone in their homes. And yeah, I think that's really, really important. And is there anything else you want to say about that to our listeners?
No, I think that's pretty much the gist of it.
So Joy, what would you add in terms of this? People still feeling down, still feeling stuck. How does connecting with their ancestors help right now?
I think the biggest thing is to know that there's nothing that we're going through that is specific to us. Our ancestors have experienced every hurt, every pain, every wound, every fear that we have. And a lot of times it's hereditary. In other words, we experience things that didn't even start with us. That came down through the bloodline. And so if we're experiencing a certain issue in our life, it might not even be ours. It might belong to one of the ancestors and they just passed it along, and that it's really important to settle it so it doesn't continue to pass along through the bloodline to our children and our grandchildren. And I've found this to be a very effective healing tool when we recognize that some of the things we're feeling aren't even our feelings. We're feeling the emotions of our ancestors that they didn't resolve.
This can be really big for people. So I'm going to pause on this one for a second. There's nothing we're experiencing that is specific to us. Are you going to stand by that quote?
Yeah, I am.
Yes. And I want people to understand this at another level, hopefully, because we think it is. We
Oh,
feel,
for sure.
Yeah. Tell me more about that.
So many times we think we're very alone. We think I'm the only person that's ever gone through this. I'm the only person that's ever felt this. I'm the only person that's ever had this experience. But we have to remember, humanity has been around for thousands of years, and there's only so many emotions. And so, yes, our ancestors have experienced the same emotions we have. They've experienced disillusionment. They've experienced loneliness. They've experienced abandonment. All of these things that we experience, we might not know the ancestor that experienced it, but we might look at our mother and say, she had problems with this and I have problems with this. And usually it's, we can look back and say, I can see where this started, but it might not have started even with her. It might have even gone further back. And so whatever we don't settle, we pass along.
Jesse, did you want to add?
Yeah, it could have been even our own traumas in past lives.
Yes. So just want to repeat what Jesse just said, where you have a little wind going on with you there, Jesse. So he's saying it could even be a past life that is coming up and needing to be healed. You guys, this idea is so big. So sometimes it's hard to wrap your mind around the possibilities here, but it's also what should motivate you all to this book and to this kind of healing and to this subject specifically in the big world of healing. If you've never really dabbled and dipped your toe in the ancestral healing world, it is really, really powerful. So Marcia, what do you want to add to this?
I just would add that, we do get isolated. We do always feel, or a lot of times feel isolated, but that's the issue with depression, with all kinds of other emotions that we think we can't resolve. It is the isolation that we feel. So if we do pray and we do connect to the ancestors, and I'm a firm believer in music, and I think those of us who do shamanism forget to tell people that our music is a prayer. And so that prayer, connecting with the ancestors, means that we are never alone. We can always find something to connect with, because we're never disconnected.
Yes. I love that. I was reading a chapter in another project, and they were talking about chanting Om. And the way that they were talking about it was very much like you're talking about it now. It's not just you sitting in your living room making a noise. It is so much bigger than that. Is there anything else you wanted to say about that?
Right. I absolutely believe that. And I play a drum too. It's called a bowron. And it is made of goat skin, which is different, might be a little bit different than a Native American drum in that it's a different animal. It's a more domesticated animal, but still has a spirit. And that spirit brings me back to where it originated, to Ireland. So I love that connection as well.
Yes. All right, you guys, I have another question I want to move around to all of you for. And Joy, I'm going to start with you for this one. Essentially, this book is full of tools that are awareness tools. Anything that helps us understand ourselves and the world around us can give us these, I call them gifts of awareness. Those are opportunities for healing, deep, deep healing sometimes. So Joy, what I want to know is, talk to me a little bit about your own personal journey and practice of awareness on the day-to-day. How does that look like in your life?
So I have, I think the first thing that I do when I first wake up in the morning is connect with my soul and connect with this feeling of divine joy and divine love, and consciously bringing it into my body through my breath. So I'm bringing it in, I'm breathing in, and I'm breathing in, imagining the feeling of the divine coming into my body and then flowing out. And I consciously then send it out to whoever and whatever circumstances I'm going to meet up with during the day. And that's how I start. Now, during the day, on and off, I might do meditation. I like to exercise, and I like to connect while I'm exercising. I think it's any kind of physical movement, whether it's dance, whether it's, my favorite thing is the elliptical machine, because I'm on there and I'm, there's this repetitive motion, and I put on my electronic music and just go to this other place. And so everybody's experience of connection is different. There's no rules. You don't have to sit cross-legged and say Om, although a lot of people do. And I do. So I can't say that I have a hard, fast rule. I feel like I try to connect all the time in all my breath and all my activities, but specifically, I like variety. So sometimes I'm on the machine, sometimes I'm out walking or running. Sometimes I'm sitting cross-legged saying Om, and it's always different.
I think it's really important to understand that that can change even in the moment, day to day or hour to hour, of what you are really needing to nourish yourself. And so it's
exactly.
It's great to be open to,
changing. Be open to different things. If one thing doesn't work for you, try something else. That's my advice to all my clients, because that seems to be their most difficult thing. Meditation is their most difficult thing because they make it too hard.
The M word. That's what I call it. The M word. Jesse, what does your daily practice look like?
My daily practice is, as soon as I wake up, I try to face the sun, or I try to get up as early as I can sometimes, but it's not as easy. Like most of the times I'm up pretty late. But I wake up and I greet the sun. I set out some tobacco. I say a prayer, give thanks for that chance, that day, to recreate, to reboot, to retry. Because every day is different. But every day, as soon as that sun hits, that's our chance to try again. That's our chance for a new start. And another thing that I do throughout the day is just reprogramming myself. Because I was taught certain things, through survival, and just as simple as, when I think of something negative, I think of 3 things positive to cover it up. Little things like that, little things here and there that give myself boosts on to keep going. Because a lot of things in life, try to make me do the opposite. But, it's just that little voice in the back of your head that tells you to keep going and keep going and keep going,
I love what you said about, if you think of one of these things that's a bit negative, you think of 2 things to go on it that are positive and really kind of overpower that negativity. I love that one. I'm also feeling the theme of gratitude so far with both you and Joy. I think it's so important to wake up and be grateful for the day, the sunshine, as we stare at Jesse's beautiful blue sky above his head. Love that. Marcia, close us out today. Talk to me about how your personal practice looks.
Well, every day I am connecting as well, and in multiple different ways, but I wanted to give an example. I woke up one day this last weekend and had a really horrible dream that felt like it shattered my soul, and very, very real. So when I woke up, I was shaking and terrified. And then I connected with everything and realized that I am still in my body. People still love me. The ancestors are still here. They're still talking to me. I don't have to worry about total devastation. So once I talked myself off the ledge and brought myself back to this reality, things got a lot better. So I want to let the viewers know that anyone can do that. You know, you just got to think about your ancestors and who you want to connect with and what you want to connect with. So,
you know, you're talking about a dream, and Jesse mentioned dreaming, and I'm thinking, well, what about the nightmares then?
right.
Like, so what about that, right? And that's what you're saying, is like you're waking up in that, and how do you connect with that being a good thing?
Well, it took me a bit, I have to say, but the good thing about it was that I finally worked through it and realized where it came from. And it came from someone else, actually, that I was connected with as well, and spending the weekend with, talking about how disconnected she felt. So once we worked that out between ourselves, everything got much better. She was able to resolve her issue as well. So I would suggest that everyone, you know, really connect into what the dream meant and why you might have had it as well. I mean, it can be a good dream or it could be a bad dream, but if you understand that it did mean something, that your brain was trying to work through something, then we can resolve the issue and feel much, much better even than we did the day before. So.
Yeah, and I think I'll summarize that one by saying these are all opportunities for healing.
Mm-hmm.
And how you're looking at something so the trigger is tough, but if you can just take the deep breath and understand the opportunity, then everything shifts right there in that moment.
Right.
There's power in that. Authors, amazing human beings, thank you so much for being here, for what you do in the world, for being here to share it with everyone today. Thank you.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
So for all of you who are anxiously awaiting this book, I hope that you'll join us on October 27th at noon Eastern. We're going to have a little celebration with a live stream book launch party, and that'll be on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page. I've got you hooked up down below in the show notes with that link. And of course, if you're listening today and one of these authors has said something that really resonated with you, please go on down to those show notes and click on the link and explore further. Take a step with them in their world and see what they're up to. You all have generously offered your stories and tools, but you're there for support beyond the book, which is one of my biggest missions, is to build the community, so that it's not just a chapter that we read or the tool that we practice, but it's actually the community that we can reach out to beyond that. So I thank all of you for being part of that very powerful community. And our viewers, listeners, please check them out. They have a lot of amazing gifts to give. So if you're listening after the 27th of October, well, that means the book is ready on Amazon, and you got to get over there and grab your copy, you guys. Lastly today, y'all, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. It is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.